Alright guys, I know I haven't been getting a whole lot of content to this channel, but this is Watson Psychological Health Center's channel, and the whole purpose of this channel is to bring knowledge and information to you. This is 2022, and so I have been searching high and low for what I'm going to bring to you tonight, because this comes from 2017, and I recorded it and I thought, oh my gosh, I deleted this episode. I spent all of this time, I chased this wonderful individual around, got to spend the day with her, and since have been able to spend so much time with her. And if you've ever been a part of Young Living or Essential Oils at any level, you have probably seen her book, and it's called Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils, and it is by Dr. Carolyn. She doesn't put a whole lot of information out there. She is amazing. She is so kind. You're going to see her heart in this episode. You're going to hear her. You're going to get to experience a little bit of her purpose and her passion and her love for helping people. And it all comes from just her own. We all have a journey, and she has her journey as well. I wish I could interview her again real quick, but back in 17 and 18 we kept in touch, and I just need to reach out to her and see how she's doing. She offered to bring me to her office when I was out in California for a while back in San Diego with Life Illuminated. I'm not real sure what's happened with that program at this moment in time, but I don't know. I know that Bob and some of the other folks are doing well, and Lena, and just things are going well with them. But anyway, that's the program that brought us together. And I went out to Oklahoma City. My mom called me and said, hey, let's go to Oklahoma City and see Dr. Mine. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Oklahoma City? That's 4 hours away. That's awesome. So we drove. And before it was all over, I got to spend some time on the stage with her, and really got to hang out with her and get to know her. And she found about the brochure about PTSD and some of the work I'd been doing with the oils. And it's a fascinating journey, because we all know somebody who has been through something. And at this level in my life, with all the things that I do with AcuDetox, neurofeedback, biofeedback, energy psychology, EMDR, talk therapy, CBD, cranial sacral, energy work, all of the things that I've done, I've studied, voltage, natural health, coaching, helping people find health through looking at their hair and mineral analysis, along with, exploring health options with their blood work, just all the numerous things. And if you're interested in any of those things, definitely let me know. We can, in Texas, you can order your own blood panels. We can talk about that. I'm going to be having a series come up here before too long on, I've been monitoring my own blood sugar. Why is that important? What can it teach you? Does that have anything to do with mood and how people feel? Absolutely. Anger, all of the things. And hair and mineral analysis. Oh my gosh, has that one been amazing. I have really enjoyed the hair and mineral analysis work that I've been doing, and so it's real simple. If you're interested in that, I can get you the prices, the fees. Just back channel me, let me know, message me, and I'll get you hooked up with that, and we'll get you taken care of. I'll get you how you take the sample, when you need to take the sample. It's real easy, and a small amount of hair that you need, and how much you'll actually need. We'll get that sent in. We'll get the report back. We can go over it. We can talk about emotions and how much emotions play into it, because emotions get trapped in the body. I really wish I would know a lot more now than I know then. Everyone's journey grows, and so what I've learned through all of this with the brain and the alpha magnitudes and theta magnitudes, and just the posterior dominant rhythm in the brain, and how important all this is. And I used to think neurofeedback would just fix everything, and I'll be honest and transparent in that I've come to learn that it simply won't, because there are so many key components and factors that play into how well the body actually does and what's going on in the body. And through Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Jessica and so many other instrumental people in my life teaching me, Dr. Danish Farr here in Amarillo, and so many others, I could keep naming people that have really helped me. Even the neurofeedback community, things of that nature that have taught me. Gary Young, Young Living, Essential Oils, my uplines. in my organizations, those things have been monumental for me. And sometimes I get so focused on, I've got to find that modality that's going to fix somebody, when I just simply come back to her book, and I use an oil. I focus on the emotion. I find where that emotion is stored in the body, and we work to release that. If this is new to you, or you think this is weird, by all means, call me up. I am definitely interested. I will show you we can do a coaching session right there. We can work on a block. We can find one that you've got. And I think you'll be amazed at how quick we can get there and how effective it will be. So I do a lot of consultations and different things over the phone. I don't need you in front of me for this work. That's the cool thing. I've seen miracles happen. I've seen blessings unfold. Of course, all of mine is from a Christian perspective, which is totally, that's where I'm at. I'll respect your perspective as well, but just want you to know that's where I'm at. And so there's just so many things that I've grown from. And I'm here to tell you, Dr. Mind was, at the point, it was kind of where it really opened my horizons to so many things, the opportunities, the possibilities that are. This is kind of where I began to get into the whole energy movement and understanding that emotion's not just, if you go back to Scripture, as a man thinketh in his heart for a second, it doesn't say his brain. When you begin to understand and dissect some of these things, and you go back to some of those ancient translations, you find out that there's so much going on. There's nothing new under the sun. There's so much knowledge in those scriptures and in the Proverbs and in the knowledge of all of that we have yet to really be still and really have some of that illuminated to our path, I believe. But I do feel that is really being illuminated to us at this time, and it's really coming to those who are seeking that type of stuff, that type of knowledge and wisdom. And so if you're interested in this, I have had so many people have major breakthroughs, things like headaches, deceased, they're done. I'm not saying that I'm treating headaches, it's just emotions create so many different conditions in our body, and it's so important that we understand that if you've tried physical things for your body and you're still lacking a result, but you haven't worked on the emotional, I would encourage you to do that. I think sometimes that's why with neurofeedback, I do get so many positive results. I mean, the other day I've had a lady that's had chronic headaches, and I can see it in the EEG where it's at and what's going on. And but there's so much stress, there's so much hurt in her world right now too. So I simply worked on the default mode network, because the default mode network really helps connect us to self. Because when we're trapped in trauma, it's easy to become numb or seek things that can change how we feel. So all of my work is really to bring people back into what they feel and how they're doing. And that's really important, because our perception, we don't always realize that we do that because of our beliefs in ourselves. And I really didn't mean to get into an 8-minute lecture here, but sometimes I just feel like I want to get you what you need, and I'm going to get on with this presentation and move on. But your belief in yourself, I get so many people here lately that they're looking to stop doing something, or they've created a pattern of behavior that is undesirable. But when we really get down to the energy of what they believe about themselves, you believe. If you believe and your rituals don't line up, then what you're going to get is not what you're anticipating or expecting. So let me back up a minute. Let's say you want to quit smoking, but you still see yourself as a smoker. Now, you won't say with your mouth, I'm a smoker. What you're going to say is, I'm quitting smoking. On the flip side, what happens is when you go to work and you enjoy that smoke break, or you look forward to hanging out or doing those activities that you did as a smoker, those rituals in your mind, your standard of success has to change. Because that is no longer the standard in which you can live by with those belief patterns in which you are establishing to obtain. So I use everything that God has given us to work towards those goals, to examine those core beliefs, break things down into smaller chunks that people can really work towards, make it simple, and really work on those rituals, those patterns, those things in which we do often, and we do sometimes unintentionally, unconsciously, because there's so many different ways that we can get emotions stored in the body. And this is where the first time that I really saw Dr. Mind work on me, and what she told me was going on, how she did it. She's a chiropractor. Y'all, she never even hardly put her hands on me. It was one of the most fascinating things to experience. At the same time, I wanted to be fully present in the moment to understand what I felt, not so much what she was doing, because it was strange. I will tell you that. And if she's ever worked on you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to be suspenseful. You're welcome to comment on that in the comments and share that, but I don't mind talking about it. I just want to be respectful for her and not make it weird. It was very powerful and it was very dynamic, but it was one of those experiences I will never forget. Now, I will tell you the shift that I felt was immense. Unfortunately, I didn't have some of the gas discharge visualization cameras and different things like that to even measure it. I didn't do a pre and post map or anything like that to see the change, but I'm just here to tell you it was experiential, and it was definitely there. I felt it and I could sense it, and it stayed. There's times where I can still feel that it's still stuck with me, and I think it's created a lot of when I'm working on someone, what I feel and how I go about working with them, and what's going on in the situation that helps me to understand what the path and what I'm feeling and where we need to go. And that's a unique experience. Some people see things, the others sense them, and there's a lot that we could discuss in some of this, but just simply open me up to that possibility, to that belief, to that idea. And it really began my paradigm shift. So, without that said, guys, I still believe she's practicing. She lives in California, and she has got a website. She's got information. I'm going to throw this out there real quick, and then I'll get her information as well. I know she used to do sessions from afar, but, I was very grateful for her to sit down and take this time and really invest in me as a young individual, really growing in the field, that she was so well versed, teaching me all the things from her homeopathic remedies and the program that she's created and why she created it. She created this all of herself for her treatment model. She really forged through some of this stuff. She's a pioneer, guys. She's truly amazing. The utmost respect for her. So, if you guys want to contact me, I will leave contact information at the end on a slide. And without further ado, here's Dr. Mind. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited tonight. Today I got to go to Oklahoma City, and I got to be by one of the individuals that has been so inspirational in the work that I've done. I know she's had such an impact on so many of you from reading her books and some of the information that you're going to gain from this webinar tonight. But with me, I have Dr. Carolyn Mind with us this evening. And she has agreed to come on and be a part of this. And today is, I got an opportunity to sit in her wet lecture, and she was talking about her book. And her book is the one that we get with care, the Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. And I know that most of you probably have this book. You've used this book because it's part of the care curriculum, and it's part of so many of the foundational aspects of beginning to use the oils with the emotions. And I had no idea. So at lunch, I took my brochure up to her, and I was like, oh my gosh. She was standing right there in front of me, and I kind of was like, I kind of knees buckled up a little bit, and I just began to share with her a little bit about what I did and what I was doing. And then she was like, how can I get in touch with you? And I was like, oh my gosh. And so now a trip to Oklahoma City to hear her and learn from all of this. And now she's sitting here being a part of this with us. And so I am so excited to have her this evening. And she's going to be talking to us a little bit about relationships, because that's the theme of what we're talking about here, and how you can manage your relationships, how you can work to find a better state of balance. And so I've put a little bit of her references up here. Of course, most of you guys know about the Blue Book, the Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. It needs no introduction. The others, Dr. Mind, would you tell us a little bit about the books down there, and then we'll talk a little bit about the buttons.
The Different Bodies, Different Diets was written as a self-help guide for people. I started out from the dietary aspect, but then found that the most profound aspect is a personality profile. This is a way of really understanding who you are at a deep level. It essentially takes 20 years of self-discovery and condenses that into 4 pages. It's who are you, what motivates you. If you take those characteristic traits and express those on the at worst side, what does that look like? At best is your potential compared to you, not you trying to fit into somebody else's mold. Where this is so helpful is not only in understanding yourself, but understanding your spouse. I found that when couples would read their personality profiles individually and also together, it gave a much deeper understanding of who each partner was and gave them a common ground to be able to relate on a really deep, real level. Also, when you look at the at-worst characteristics, that tells you where a lot of your psychic wounds are, those deep childhood wounds, and allows you to come up with ways to really help and support each other.
I want to stop you right there for just a minute. And let's go back and talk about that, because a minute ago, we've got some other people sitting in the room with us here. And we were just kind of talking about the essence of marriage. What is marriage? What is it about? How are we doing marriage in America today? And kind of the hurts and the pains and the habits of some of these things. And that book could speak volumes to that.
It does. And generally what happens in relationships is our first marriage is the parent we had the greatest difficulty with when we were growing up, which basically means all of your unresolved emotional stuff gets carried into the marriage. If you don't have a way of dealing with that, it just compounds as life stresses come on. And particularly when one person isn't being heard, or you're not really valuing the relationship and you're not giving the relationship the time and the nurturing it needs, then things start falling apart. And especially when one person has to cut off an aspect of themselves to fit into the expected norm or picture that the other person expects.
Absolutely. And as we were sitting here, I'm going to hand the mic over down to the other individual at the end of the couch at this point in time. But Elena was talking a little bit about, she made the comment, a happy divorce. If you don't mind sharing a little bit, because it goes right in hand with what you were saying, and sharing a little bit about that. Not that we're promoting divorce.
No, not at all. In fact, I love the idea of marriage. I mean, whenever we think of the word marriage, it's bringing two things together when we marry, of course. And I liken, whenever I've spoken about it, is, you can come together and be connected in that sense as a couple, but you're still individuals. And I think that gets lost a lot of the times in so many relationships, because we take on these assumed expectations, these assumed roles that we feel like we have to fit into. And I was married for 15 years, and it was pretty turbulent. I do take full responsibility for my part within my marriage, my role in that, because I didn't really, I'll be honest, I didn't really know what to do. I was 22 when I got married, and my husband was a fantastic provider as far as like the financial side of things, and I'm very, very grateful to him. Unfortunately, what I needed was to be provided for as a woman, to be provided for in different ways. And when I went seeking that with him, there was just such a disconnect there, which of course led to me rebelling and, well, you're not giving me this, well, I'm not going to give you that, or whatever it might be. And we lost, if we ever even had it, which is, opens it up to much broader sort of conversation, I guess, but the intimacy, the trust was not there. And I don't mean trust like he's going to go cheat on me, or I'm going to go and, have an emotional affair somewhere else. It wasn't about that within our marriage. The trust that wasn't there was I couldn't be my authentic self without this judgment and condemnation. And like I said in an earlier conversation, I was told that I was crazy, not, oh, you're so crazy, girl. It was, no, you're crazy. For what you believe in and who you are, you're crazy. And I had to leave a piece of my heart outside of this marriage because,
and as you had to do that, what was that like for you as a woman?
I forgot who I was. And I think you start to come from, I'm trying to find the right words because now I'm connecting to those feelings back then. It was conditional love. And whenever you're in a condition, he had expectations of me, and I could never fit that role. And so here I was kind of fumbling along trying to fill these expectations, which I didn't even know what they were because there was no communication. And so therefore I'm sort of putting expectations on him. And I mean, it was just, you spoke earlier about chaotic energy. It was definitely chaotic. So I do speak about a happy marriage, a happy divorce, because it's much better than a miserable marriage. And no matter what we did, different things where I would present to him different, communication skills or books or what I needed. I handwrote notes. And look, I'm not trying to make him into a bad guy because that's not who he is. We just weren't good being married together. I wish I had known more about these body types and things like that then, because we have different body types. And then love languages, we speak different love languages, and I wanted to invest into him and do what I could. And little did I know, which came to find out gratefully after our divorce started going through, was that he was so wounded as a child. I was wounded as a child too. And my relationship with men from my father and abuse as a child set me up for having these emotionally unavailable relationships. He wasn't the first one. Line them all up and knock them all down. And moving forward in now in my life, as I'm 38 years old and with my 2 children, this journey since we separated has been one of healing, and it's about unconditional love of myself, because I started to look at my entire, sort of almost standing and looking back on that, my entire life experience, and seeing the patterns and seeing what those early triggers were. And I don't want to repeat that. I don't want to take all of that into my next relationship.
Absolutely.
And so, having these tools and that intimacy, and I think society and social media, everything has sort of classified intimacy as sex, and making, and like we talked about, those are all different. Those are actually 3 different things. Right. And that intimacy is that vulnerability and that transparency and being able to come to your partner, whether it's a husband, a wife, or, whatever you are, and be able to communicate and speak from your heart and not feel that you're going to be judged or condemned for that. My hope, hope's not a strategy, but my wish for what my experience is to now be able to go forward and say to people, like, when you honor your heart, you can never go wrong. And I wish I had been, I don't know if I was braver or had more courage to be able to voice to him, put my foot down and just say, hey, you need to hear me. But where I'm at right now with such a happy divorce, I love him. I am so grateful for what he's done, what he continues to do for myself and for our children. And, he made the comment the other day, he said that I was his best friend. Or how many divorces can you really, and I know they're out there because I've heard of them, and I celebrate that. But that was a choice that we made right from the get-go, is I had it in my head that, okay, so we've had, outside looking in, it was a great marriage. Inside looking out, it was lacking so much and devoid of it was pretty cold, and I made that choice that my divorce would not be that way. And I wasn't, he came at me, well, we're going to be a statistic, and statistics says this. I'm like, well, how about we be a different kind of statistic? Let us be an example to other people that, you make this choice, and being the emotional powerhouse that we are, we can change the direction of all of that. And it does take a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-work. The growth I've made from this is just immeasurable. But it could have gone the other way. I could have been a victim,
And that lady that's sitting there and she's listening to you talk about this right now, and she's feeling maybe disconnected from her husband a little bit.
Sure.
And she's going, okay, what do we do? As I looked at Dr. Mine, how do we get this thing back on track? Or trying to sort through and maybe figure out where she feels, because she's really having to come to that point right now.
Yeah.
Maybe growing a business, having a family, there's been a lot of demands. And she's been nurturing so many things that we talked about a minute ago. What would you say to her?
I would look at that woman and ask her to really take a look at where she is. Also, communicate with her husband and let him know where she's coming from. And also ask him to communicate the same thing to her. And honestly look at who you are, evaluate where you are, what's important to you, where do you want to go, and let's really realistically put a little energy into this relationship to see where are we now and where are we going and what's our potential. And then once you've made that decision, so if you've made the decision that you want to go forward, then how do you do it and how do you keep the relationship strong? And what's absolutely essential is that you spend quality time together, a minimum of at least one evening that's your date night, where you really focus on each other without any other distractions.
Can I add to that too?
Absolutely.
A lot of the times, especially about the date night doesn't mean that that's the night that you schedule to have sex. Okay, the date night is go out and do all of those things that you did when you were courting. See, that's something that is dead, I think. We don't court. It's like we go online and we find a partner because it fits our profile. And, I'm just speaking very generally, but we've sort of locked ourselves away in these boxes, and by boxes I mean a phone or a computer, and then we can be anything we want to be, because then nobody can see our true self, because I don't want to look at my true self. How can you look at me and truly, and that's where when we live authentically. So that date night is about recreating, or maybe not even recreating, but finding that intimacy, going out and sort of treating it like it's fun. And we all have this inner child within us, and so go and be silly, go drive race cars, like go-karts, or go bowling, or
laugh a little bit.
And Dr. Mine said that today, and I've heard it many times, is the key to a marriage
is to learn how to laugh.
Learn how to laugh. Because what's the other side of laughter? It's anger. So,
and would you, and explain a little bit about what you just said, the other side, Dr. Mine, to that emotion, and how would you...
The most common emotion that we're aware of is anger. And so for men, a lot of times men are aware of two emotions, sex and anger. And a lot of times anger is the first emotion that surfaces. So then underneath that is when you want to look at where are the hurts, where are the other things that are triggering that anger. But the other side of anger is laughter. What's anger? Anger is energies built to a certain point where it has to explode. An explosion of negative energy is anger. An explosion of positive energy is laughter. What does that tell you? How do you get out of it? That's when you look at the affirmation of my direction is clear. Where do you want to go? When you've got a relationship where there's stress, that's your next question. Where do I want to go from here?
So as And ladies, by no means am I just speaking to you, but I understand that the majority of our Young Living audience are women. Mm-hmm. And so we're taking that approach for a minute, but we'll talk about the man's place in just a minute if you're a man listening to this as well. But so she could go grab your book.
Yes.
And just walk her through a couple of affirmations, how she might do that, and then what oil might support that.
The oil for anger is purification. That's a good place to start.
Okay.
You can also look at the emotions you're feeling. So it may be rejection. Okay. It may be abandonment. It may be unappreciated. It may be fear of failure. Whatever emotion you're feeling, select the oil that goes with it and the affirmation that goes with it. For the abandonment, it's at one-ment. I am at one with all that is. You can even look at the chakras. The second chakra has to do with relationships. Where we get into trouble with relationships is expectations. Expectations lead us to failure.
Yeah, boy, we could get into that for a while, couldn't
That's
we?
a big one.
Absolutely.
The other side of expectation is appreciation. The way you get to appreciation is you end up being complete within yourself, so now you come from a position of strength rather than a position of need.
Okay.
When you spoke about getting clear about, clarity and where you want to go, I've found in talking with different people, we're really, really good at knowing what we don't want. I don't want a bad relationship. I don't want these bills. I don't want this. I don't want that. I've noticed when I ask people, okay, what do you want? And people can't give you an answer. And it's like you don't have to give me an answer. But how about getting really clear? Because when we start talking about the law of attraction, and those are the first 2 steps, there's being 5 steps. The first one is being very clear about what you don't want. Well, we do that all the time, right? I don't want this backache. I don't, like I say, the bills or the relationship problems. The second part is getting very clear about what you do want. So how can we move in the direction of a good relationship or a healthy, that balance when we don't even know if that's what we truly want? And so saying to that woman, whoever is listening, I'm not an advocate for divorce. I'm not going to be a husband basher or a wife basher or anything like that, because I think I love the idea of a great marriage. When I see those good marriages, I celebrate that, because even if they don't know that they've got it figured out, they're willing to do what it takes. And that's a universal law too, is free will, and it has to be willing on both parts. But getting really clear, and then the third step is starting to clear out those limiting beliefs. Not good enough, not worthy enough, not deserving, not important, fear of failure, fear of success. And so starting to work through that, and that's where it does come inside of us. So when we have something like Dr. Mind's book, and being able to team up with those essential oils and being able to shift things with the affirmations, and we saw how fast today that those things were being cleared out, or at least with the muscle testing for that time being, coupling those together, well, there's a great marriage too right there when
Absolutely.
You couple them there. We've been equipped with the most incredible tools. I don't even know if any of us truly grasp, some of us do, obviously, that's why we're here, but what we've been given, and this is truly a gift. I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I'd had this in my marriage. Maybe my marriage would be different. Well, maybe it wasn't meant to be different, because I wouldn't be able to sit here today and be a testimonial and say, because now, okay, it's just taken a different shift. And now I can say I've got a really great next segment of my relationship because of what I've been doing with the essential oils and my own not being afraid. Still being afraid, but having the courage to move through this and start to really discover things about myself that I had pushed down and I didn't want to see. So saying to that woman is be willing to, and man, again, don't exclude the men from this, because they may be the ones sitting here thinking my wife is disconnected or whatever it might be. And having the courage, no matter the fear that you're feeling, because the fear is an inherent part of the human experience, but having the courage to move through this in spite of that fear, when you get to the other side, you're going to look back and just think, wow, I did this. And again, if your intention is to make your marriage as strong as it can be, then you're going to be rewarded in ways that you couldn't even imagine for yourself. But if it's taken a different route, then hopefully it will go the way that mine has gone. I wish I could, that for everybody who was going through this, if that's the direction it's taken, because you're still having to put in the work. It's not like it's over.
Right.
It's not over. It's just shifted into this different, it's transformed.
It is, and that's going to carry on to your next relationship and every other relationship.
Wow, yeah, we could talk about that for a while. And, I talk a lot about the energy that resonates within us and bouncing from relationship to relationship. And, we identify with, and then we bounce to the next one. But before we go on to that's a big topic, and I wish we had much more time. But let's go back to the guys for a minute. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's a guy, and he's been with oils for a while, and he's kind of enjoying them, and not a lot. Maybe he's involved with some of the guys at his church or whatnot, but he's not happy, and he's struggling. What would you say to him, Dr. Mike?
Look at what's really going on. Start doing more of your own inner work. Start identifying what the feelings are. And if you don't even know where to start, by knowing your body type, you can look at what those core emotional issues are.
And so if they hit the tab for men and they did that would give them their body type.
It would. And it would also tell them what those core emotional issues are and what oils they can use to work with them.
And so then they could grab your book and then walk right through that.
Exactly.
And they have their oils at home already.
Exactly.
And so that's a great tool that they have, and they don't have an excuse not to have these resources available to them.
Right.
Let's say he does that. How's that going to begin to change him or shift him or move him?
Once you start shifting those core emotional issues, things change. That's when you're able to access your power, and your power many times is found in the greatest areas of stress.
Wow.
So once you're able to move through that and transmute it, that's how you find your power. That's how you find your inner strength. And you can't have a good relationship with anyone else until you have that relationship with yourself. So
boy, I hope y'all are enjoying this evening. This has been such a dynamic time. But in moving with that as well, I know a lot of guys sometimes that we can be distant from our emotions. How would we really want to work to embrace change when it's so hard? Because as a man, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I want to go read a book on emotions.
Start with something simple like fear of failure.
Okay.
And I had a man come to me because he wanted to have more success in his business. He happened to be a contractor. And so we looked at what was the block. The block was the fear of failure. So the fear of failure, the other side is not success, but it's unfoldment. And the affirmation is, I accept growth. The oil is peppermint. And it goes on the thymus point, on the thymus point. He started using the oils. He did that for 3-4 days. He ended up landing a job that would keep him busy until the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
In addition to the rest of his normal jobs. It was in the summer. He really didn't want to put on another crew. So he decided he was going to stop using the peppermint. I told him when he was ready to work on his relationship with his wife, then he could start using the peppermint again.
Oh, that's such a good story. That's such a good story. Is there anything else you would like to tell our listeners tonight?
Just start. Take one little step at a time. And you can just take an oil, look at the emotion, do it at night before you go to bed, and allow your subconscious to do the work. It doesn't have to be this long, involved thing. If there's another emotion that you're looking through that pops up, use that one. Another thing you can do is you can look at the body. If you have a pain in a particular area of your body, look at the emotion that's supported there. One of the common ones is low back pain, that sacroiliac ligament. That has to do with feeling unsupported.
You know, for a guy, when he doesn't feel supported, how could he begin to realize some of these things? How could this come to awareness for him, maybe?
A lot of times it will affect a man physically. Another area where it affects men is financially. Just not being happy. Not really feeling like they're connected or being needed. Where do you start? Start with yourself. Start with being able to communicate. Allow yourself to get in touch with those feelings that have been so factored out. Because I see with a lot of men, they've been told men don't cry. So therefore it's not okay to be emotional. You need the emotions. You need to be able to connect with your feelings. Because when you start stuffing your feelings, that's when you start seeing a lot of physical problems. So start by allowing yourself to feel. This is where communicating with your wife can be very, very helpful. And so many men think that if they show their vulnerability, they're going to be perceived as weak.
Right.
That's not true, especially as far as your wife's concerned.
Why is that not true, but yet it's such a fundamental belief in our society today?
It was really factored in when we were looking at men being there to protect society. And another thing that will happen is even the whole basis of circumcision, which was really instigated to cause the men to be more aggressive to protect the tribe. What that translates to is sexual abuse before the age of 5. And that is probably the biggest factor I've seen when you're looking at stunting emotional growth. That's why you see so many men that are locked in to emotionally being 2 years old. It's all about me.
Wow. Guys, I've been doing this work for a long time. I hope you're enjoying this wisdom tonight. If a guy's sitting here listening to this tonight, realizing that, and I want to be very basic, and I know this may sound very fundamental, but with that revelation right there, where would you direct him to the next step?
First thing I would do is start getting in touch with your feelings. Start letting go of your anger. And a lot of times this has to do with not only anger in general, but anger towards all women, which is reflected towards an anger towards your wife. If you're angry towards her, how can you trust her? How can you build a relationship that's going to truly support you? How do we deal with the anger? Well, we're going to look at laughter. We're going to look at my direction's clear. What's my direction? My direction is start getting in touch with some of the feelings. Start allowing yourself to hear your wife. Because women, part of our role is to help our men deal with their emotions.
Absolutely.
And work with emotions together. Work with her emotions if you don't know what yours are, because she's going to pick them up and she's going to express them and she's going to think they're hers when they're really yours. And that will also be true with your children and even your animals. Because if you're blocking your emotions, the rest of your family is going to pick it up. and they're going to reflect it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming. And guys, once again, this is Dr. Carolyn Mind, and I hope you've enjoyed this time. And if so, please go check out these resources that are here. Bodytype.com. That's her website. And from there, there's several tabs that they can look around for different information on there. What else might they find on there?
There's the information on the body type. There's information on the oils. I do a newsletter. It's a free newsletter every month. You can sign up for that.
Awesome.
And in there, I also go into profiling different types and also different articles talking about the oils. And so this is another resource that you can use.
Absolutely.
Chakra Harmony. It's another way of balancing the chakras. So... and this is another way where we can balance our energy using the essential oils.
And you have a private practice where?
I am in Rancho Santa Fe, which is basically North San Diego, California.
Okay. And so you see people in the office?
I do.
Okay. And so people can get a hold of you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my phone number is on my website.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely. You know, what we're here to do tonight, y'all, is empower and equip you with, you've got so many tools that people can use. And I often get the question, where do I start? What do I do? Does it matter where I put this oil? Does it matter what I do with it? And I've always kind of gone back to your book a little bit to look at the emotion, you know, and to take responsibility of your stuff. Because we all have stuff.
That's ultimately what it boils down to. It's ultimately we need to take personal responsibility for who we are. It's about our personal growth. It's what can we do to reach a point where we have unconditional love and acceptance, not only of other people, but especially of ourselves. That way we can let go of the judgment and really be in the experience of the life experience to where we can experience the joy and life can be what you really want it to be rather than trying to fit into another box or trying to be something that you're not.
Absolutely. Well, y'all listening, I really hope you understand what you've heard tonight and the resources that are available to you. And I want to encourage you to go to her site. You may have her book. Get involved with it, use it, pick it up, and apply it. And we just hope that this has been a blessing to you. And if you have any questions, they can email you.
Yes.
Absolutely. So we hope that this has been beneficial, and thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.